Hello, hello, hello! It's coffee time. It's coffee time. I don't know if we. I don't know. Should we do? Let's do this mainly on the energy price thing that's happening. Energy crisis. There's an energy crisis going on, and today the energy price cap has been raised to 3,549. That's the minimum that they can charge. Minimum charge, and there are fears that it could hit £7,200 next spring, and this is Ofgem. Ofgem are the regulator that are supposed to look after the interests of the consumer, but it isn't. It's not happening. They're not looking after us, are they? They're not looking after us. They're looking after the electrical suppliers, the gas and electricity suppliers. That's who they're actually looking at. So we can actually say that Ofgem is busted. Ofgem is just it's a slave to the energy industry. Right. Right. You're probably wondering how we got here. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. How are we here? But let's talk about Martin Lewis, because emotional Martin Lewis has been on all the TV shows and all the radios telling everyone about how people are going to die. People are going to die. Now, Martin Lewis, for those of you who aren't in the UK, he's a gob on a stick who goes around saving people money. He started the website moneysavingsexpert.com many years ago, and you see him everywhere. He's got his own TV show. Here he is doing his TV show here. Now, again, I don't have any issue with him, but I have an issue with him now because back in 2012 he sold moneysavingsexpert.com for an eye-watering 87 million quid. 35 million in cash, and I think the rest of it was he's got shares. So he still has an interest in that website. He's got shares of the website worth 25 million. And he's looking at another 27 million in future payments. So he has an interest in that website. Now, that website, what is it? It's a consumer website that aims to save you money. On it, there are many tools that allows you to save money. You know, for insurance, loans, whatever, blah blah blah. But they get a commission. They get a commission for every recommendation they get. He does that with, and it used to do it with energy prices. I don't think you can use it now because the energy industry is so volatile, and this is why he doesn't condemn the energy industry. He condemns government. Government must help because he is a capitalist. He's a capitalist. He's here to make money. Do not think that that Martin Lewis, did all this as a socialist. He's not. He's a capitalist. And I have a big issue with him because earlier in the year he recommended that everyone should adopt a wait-and-see approach, to their energy contracts. Now, I was in a position, I think I could have got a 2-year deal for 170 quid a month or something, 150, and I listened to him foolishly. Normally I don't. Normally I just just do what I need to do, but I listened to him. I thought, okay, maybe he's got a point, because I was monitoring the whole situation, and then I saw that skyrocket, and it's continued to skyrocket because the advice he gave was completely the opposite of what needed to be done. He should have said, the industry's in complete volatile mess, grab what you can. That's what he should have said, but he didn't. He didn't say that, and there are videos out there which you can go and watch where he says this. I am not lying. I am speaking the truth. I cannot lie. And so I'm now beginning to question his validity, right? I'm not saying he is a shill, but he does have many eggs in many baskets. He has many reasons to be on the side of the energy industry because it pays his wages. It props up his website, which he has shares in. He never gave up his shares, as far as I know. He still writes for that website. He's still the face of it, even though he sold it, and even though he's very, very rich. How did we get here? How did we get here? How did we get here? It all goes back to the 1980s, to the Conservative Party. Boo, hiss. Right? And Mrs. Thatcher, again, as we're doing a history lesson, Mrs. Thatcher was always interested in not in the future economics. It's always quick hit. All our governments, whether they're Conservative or Labour, because they have like 4 or 5 year terms, it's all quick fix stuff. It's never any long term planning. Never any long term planning. There is some, but we'll get onto that. So she sold off the utilities, she sold off the water, she sold off electricity, she sold off the gas. It bolstered the Tory coffers, sold off social housing and created a whole industry, you know, in housing, right? Which also means that poorer people, you know, don't have access to social housing anymore. And so overnight, the Conservative Party made a lot of money really quickly. Really, really quickly. And for a while, everything seemed to be ticking along. Yeah, everything seemed to be ticking along. Yeah, energy, but you know, energy costs go up. They're not subsidised like they used to be. Again, I remember the old days of the London Electricity Board, which, you know, again was, you know, subsidised energy. Everything was relatively cheap. And over the years, prices have gone up, as they always do, and never come down. But how do we get here? Well, not that long ago, well, I guess it would have been about 15 years now, Tony Blair, Labour Party, started to realise that we needed to be autonomous in our energy creation. And he was pushing forward for more investment in nuclear power stations. Yeah, controversial. And this was around 2006. And he got outvoted by his own government. Subsequently, he left, you know, and we have Gordon Brown, and you know how that worked out. But yeah, he was pushing towards the UK being a little bit more autonomous and not relying on the global market for energy. But no, nuclear power's bad, even though it's actually greener, obviously, than gas and oil production, carbon fuels, which we should be moving away from. Until alternative energy becomes more economic and more profitable and more sustainable, you have to look at nuclear as an alternative. Yeah, of course, there are downfalls to that, as there are to burning oil and coal and gas, right? But anyway, Tony Blair got wiped out by his own party. Never happened, and so we've never invested in any of our nuclear, you know, energy over here. There's been talk about it. Again, I think even dear old fluffy-haired Boris has been talking about it, but that's been, you know, curtailed by politics. And so we're now in an era of, well, geopolitics, because of what's happening in Ukraine. Ukraine has one of the largest nuclear power stations in Europe, which again supplies a lot of Europe. We have also Putin with his hand on the gas pump. Both France and Germany have turned their back on nuclear fuels on the back of the Fukushima disaster, which was caused by an earthquake, not by a nuclear meltdown, and have put their supplies in the hands of Putin. That doesn't make any sense. That big pipeline that comes from Russia into Europe, and now Putin has control of the gas prices, and he's punishing us. Again, you know, you've got to look at why Putin struck when he did. He pushed into Ukraine because he knew that everyone was going to be weakened and really distracted after the COVID incident. You know, with that he saw that as a real tactical point. And this is why we're at this. It's almost like a perfect storm of privatisation, of the markets being volatile. And it's funny because during the COVID period of 2020, oil and gas prices were at an all-time low. In the past, if in the UK, I don't know if you remember, in London and around the UK, we had these big, what they call gasometers, these big storage things. Because again, in the old days, we used to buy gas when it was cheap in the summer and store it. They've all gone now. You don't see them in urban areas anymore now, because they sold the land. Again, Tories sold the land for profit, built flats on it. But yeah, we used to store a lot more gas for the winter period. But we don't do that now. We don't do that now because everything's short term. Everything's short term. And here we are. Here we are. The perfect storm. And again, we either need to do what the French are doing, and then they've renationalised their energy industry. But EDF, I think, is suing the French government for something like €8 billion. So we either need to do that, and the government needs to completely take over energy production. Well, they might as well do the same with water as well, because the reason that they're pumping effluent into the seas around the UK, again, it's cost cutting and profiteering, so the shareholders get the top dollar. And again, this is why politicos aren't interested. They aren't interested in renationalisation, because a lot of them have interests. They have interests in it. I'm not saying they're necessarily shareholders, but let's say that there's a drink in it for them, to keep this system in place, because it makes lots of people lots of money. And again, the whole point of utilities is they're utilities. It's in the name. They're for the people. It's the infrastructure that makes the country work. And when you put this up to the highest bidder, you see what's happened. Again, in the last 10 years, in the last decade, you're probably wondering, and I've explained this before, why we had an absolute influx of energy providers. We saw loads of tiny little energy providers promising to save you money. And a lot of these, again, I read this article and I wish I could find it again. A journalist did some digging around and discovered that a lot of these energy providers were turnkey businesses. They were bought off the shelf. There was a company out there that basically you can rock up with a minimum investment, I think it's something like 50k, and have your own energy company. And a lot of them were using these companies because they want you to pay for your energy up front. Again, you're on a contract, you have to pay so much per month. They were using that financial liquidity to invest in other businesses, for other purposes. And when the prices went up, they didn't have the money, and so they busted. They went bust. And now those customers were then absorbed into the more established energy providers. But you had this debt. Now, this debt, well, what do we do with this debt? Well, the government doesn't pay it off. We're going to pass it on to you, Mr. Consumer. And this is why your standing charge on both your gas and electricity meter has gone up in the last 5 years too, because you're paying off the debts of those people who bought those businesses. I would say fraudulently. I think it's perfectly safe to say fraudulently, because they had no interest in actually running an energy company, and you're paying for it. And that's how broken the energy industry is. But you won't hear Martin Lewis talk about this, and you won't hear him talk about profiteering and shareholders. You'll just talk about him saying the government have got to prop it up because it's in his interest for that to happen, because then he'll get some money. Because again, he has an interest in this. He has a skin in the game, and I wish he'd shut up. I wish he'd shut up and go away, or at least, if he wanted to do something, if Martin Lewis wanted to make a difference, right, he would go off and he would start his own energy company, and he'd make it a charitable trust, and because he's got 87 million quid sloshing around, isn't he, in various forms, in cash and in shares. He'd start up his own energy company, and it'd be subsidised by a charitable trust, and he'd open it to the poorest families so they could get energy cheaply, fairly, right? And that's what he'd do. But he ain't doing it. That's what I'd do if I had 87 million quid on my hip and I really believed in all this stuff. That's what I'd do. But I don't have that kind of money. And this is why I get really, really annoyed. And he doesn't talk about nationalisation, because again, he'd lose money. Just see, can't you see? And this is why I get angry with all this stuff. Because Martin Lewis, I'm not saying he's a shill, but he acts like a shill, because he should be talking about nationalisation. He should be talking about, a charitable trust energy provider for the poorest families, if he really meant it. But he's going to talk in superlatives. He's going to talk in bombastic terms like people are going to die. because he wants the government to bail him out and to give him some money via the back door. This is how it works. This is how it works, right? He's no better. Now, yeah, the government has a responsibility, right? Again, Conservative government does too. But they also have a responsibility to us as a nation, and we should be autonomous. Being part of the EU, it wouldn't save us any money, wouldn't help us, because the whole of Europe's in the same state. It's just we're in a worse off state because we have oil fields and we have gas, but we sell it for profit and then buy gas again. We don't actually keep the gas we make. We sell it for profit and then we buy gas at a loss, because that's business, folks. That's how it works. If you wake up every morning and think, why does everything feel so wrong? It's because it's all about the money. It's all about the Benjamins. It's all about profit and loss. The company's profit and the people have the loss. This is how it's working now. Don't you see? And so Thatcher's vision is a perfect storm. And this is where we're at. And it's a shame she's not alive to see this, because I think even she would be shocked at how it turned out. Because I don't think even she could have envisioned that this would be a system that would end up being totally and utterly exploited and totally and utterly ruined, right? Because on paper, if you are somebody who wants to, turn everything into a capitalist, it makes sense. But then it got corrupted, and Ofgem is corrupt too, because it doesn't look after the consumer. It only looks after the energy providers, okay? Because it would say this is unacceptable. It would shut them down. It would say, no, you've got to bear the cost of this, because the consumer, there's no way the consumer can afford this, But it doesn't go that way, It doesn't go that way. I'm sorry, I feel so strongly about this, and I'm fed up with people like Martin Lewis, multi-millionaire Martin Lewis, coming on pretending he's some voice of the fucking people when he ain't. Let the poor people talk. Let the poor people make the decisions. Let the poor people overrun Parliament. Let the poor, dictate the terms. Because when the rich dictate the terms, it's only the poor who's going to lose every time, every fucking time, And I just get fed up with it. Right, so here we go. This is Martin fucking Lewis and his fucking face. People will die, and you hold that burden, mate. You hold that burden. You've made life difficult for me and my family. Where's my 87 million quid, eh? So there we go. Shall I stop there? I think I should, because it's a shame. It's a shame, because I wonder if there's anyone in the chat room. I've scared everyone off. Probably not. There we go. Wolfan says hello. Karen says hello. Left Break says a capitalist big mug. Exactly. Payne says good afternoon. There used to be a thing called Town Gas before National Gas Grid. Our old gasometers are Tesco now. Exactly. Robert remembers it. There used to be where I live in, well, it used to be in Leighton, Leytonstone, Walthamstow. Each one of those areas had a big gasometer, which used to be filled up, and then you'd see it gradually get smaller as the gas was used, because that's what we did. That was the strategy, but because it was about saving money. It was actually about being conservative, And the Conservatives aren't conservatives; they're capitalists, you see. But the Labour Party seem equally fucking clueless, and this is why I get angry. This is why I get angry at all of this, because I'm not Tony Blair's greatest fan, but go and look it up. Go and look it up. Back in 2006, 2007, he wanted to open something like 3. I think he was pushing for about 3 nuclear power plants to be built, and it takes about 15 years. So it would have been now. It would have been now that we'd have had a lovely electric grid, fully autonomous. But it makes money, doesn't it? It makes money. Not, and this is where we're at. And this is why I'm angry about it, because it's, Martin Lewis dances around the facts. He doesn't talk about profit, you know. He doesn't talk about nationalisation, you know, because he's part of the game. He's part of the fucking game, you know. Wolfgang says, "You're making good points, refer to Martin Lewis. I do concur and believe he isn't all he appears to be." No, because he's about money. It's all, he says, you know, and if you want this deal, go to my website and click an affiliate link to Amazon to save that money or whatever, and it'll be an affiliate link, you know, and he'll make some coin out of it, because whenever he appears, it drives traffic to that website where there are adverts and whatever. So it's in his interest to appear, isn't it? You know, it's all about money. It's all about money, all of it. You know, but with the gas prices at the moment, it's also about power, not necessarily the power that we burn, but power from in Russia. This is Putin's master plan. This is his ace up his sleeve, because there will be people who will start to say, well, maybe we should make concessions to him, because then he might lower, you know, he might lower the price, you know. And this is why you don't put your balls in the hand of a despot, because he'll start punching them really hard. You know what I'm saying? He's just like a shill. Instead of making us better, he keeps making us ill. I think that's how the Pink song goes, says Payne. And Payne also says it's the same people die if the government doesn't do what I say. That's what we get from Just Stop Oil. Well, again, Just Stop Oil. We need a viable alternative fuel. Either, you know, again, I don't think electric cars are necessarily going to be the way to go, because we'll have the infrastructure for that, and we'll never have the infrastructure for that. You know, just look at any block of housing like we've got flats here. What are they going to do? Put curbside charging blocks? Everyone will be fighting over them, because a lot of people here have 2-3 cars. We only have the one, but some houses have more, and there'll be people literally rolling around on the floor fighting for charging points, because it's never going to be, you know, or either that, or you're going to have, you know, extension leads out of the windows and people tripping over extension cords. So we need to think of it. There needs to be an actual viable strategy, and that involves, unfortunately, nuclear fuel until we come up with, I know, was it nuclear fission or something. We need to actually think of alternatives to the alternative of carbon, you know. Hydrogen cars maybe, you know, but it's never going to happen. Mark said, I still think, I mean, I said to the missus, you know, I'd like to move out and we get a horse and cart. Totally green, you know. Horse and cart, and then I just wave people past us as they honk. I'd love to do that. And I don't need a driving licence either. That's the beautiful thing about horse and cart. I can get in it and I can go wherever I want. Very slowly, mind. Mark says, I'm old enough to remember when your local town there was only a couple of what we used to call tramps. Well, I don't even remember that where I came from, you know. They weren't, if you did see someone, they weren't regular. They were gone. They came and they went. You know, they might have been passing through. You know, so Mark says, I'm old enough to remember when you actually see a GP. You can talk to them on the phone. Fusion, not fission. So again, I don't know what I'm talking about. We use fission now. Yeah, I get mixed up. But then, you know, I am talking off the top of my head. There is no script. So please allow me some elbow room. So yeah, I mean, this is where we're at. It ain't going to change anytime soon, even if they nationalise the industry overnight. You're looking at a very interesting winter ahead. You're looking at schools closing, because they're not going to want to burden this. And then the kids get to go home, and then the parents who are working can't have the kids at home because they can't afford to have the electricity on at home to do the homeschooling. Do you see? It's a complete and utter catastrophe. Hospitals are going to think, oh, can we afford to have that life support machine on? You know, every shop on the high street will be, well, I don't know, closing on Wednesdays like they used to. Do you remember that? When shops used to close on a Wednesday. They did round our way, they did, back in the 70s. And on a Sunday too, for that matter. Let's make Sunday a nice quiet day again. So again, I don't know if you realise this, but I had a business, and business energy is considerably more expensive than consumer electricity bill. And I was in a unique position where I had two electricity bills. I had one for my home, because I lived above the shop, and I had one for the shop. And so I had to have two different contracts. And that was very interesting. And it's very, very expensive. Again, if I was running the shop, I wouldn't have any fridges or freezers on, and I'd have lighting on to a minimum, because you're going to see shops just closing up because they can't bear it. I was listening to a guy this morning who, on the radio, was talking about a football. He had a football club, not a big club, just I guess it must be like an amateur club that he looks after. And their yearly electricity bill for like the floodlights and the stand and everything was something like $6,000, and he was trying to negotiate a new deal earlier in the year, and it got to 11, and it kind of crapped out because volatile. And then now he's looking at a £38,000 a year electricity bill. So everything is just going to crash around us, and this is bad planning. All of it's bad planning, and nobody can get us out of this. So I ain't got any advice, but again, some people are saying don't pay your bill. That's great if you've got nothing. If you're shit poor, that's great, do that. Don't pay your bill, because when they come, they're not necessarily going to take away your cooker or your I don't know, toaster or whatever. You'll still be able to feed yourself. But if you've got a TV or a sofa or a computer or a car or anything like that, the bailiffs will seize it, and there's nothing you can do. And if you try and resist, that bill will go up until you will end up bankrupt, and then you'll be homeless, you know. And then, yeah, maybe you'll be one of those tramps that Mark remembers. So yeah, it's a very interesting, difficult position. Yes, it would be nice to resist. It would be nice to take to the streets and march, but the system's too gone, too fucked for that, you know. I don't have any advice, and that's what Martin Luther needs to say. I don't have any advice, because I don't have any advice either. All I can tell you is how it's gone wrong, and how we could have put it right back in 2006, 2007 with planning. But no government in the past or in the future ever looks at long term, ever. It's all short term growth, it's all short term planning, because there's a chance that they might be ousted. There's a chance. Who remembers, I don't know, Tony Blair's Digital Connected Britain, and they dug up all the pavements and laid down optical fibre cable, and everyone just had I don't know, BT broadband over the telephone instead. Do you remember that? You know, and that's the thing when you plan for these things, because, you know, governments will plan one thing, because he wanted us to be like France, because France has a very cheap optical internet. You know, dirt cheap it is, great, dirt cheap. And I think Blair had that vision for us, but it never reached fruition, because again, you needed it to be government run. You know, you need to take the market out of it. And yeah, we would have all had cheap, fast optical fibre internet, you know, and that would have been a utility. And then the Tories would have come along and sold it off. You see, that's how it works. Yeah, we don't ever use the F word here, Payne. Fusion, jazz fusion. We never use the F word. Bondi says, "I feel for you lot as we're approaching our spring down in Australia." But you can just throw a couple of koala bears on the fire to keep warm, can't you? I wouldn't say we're lucky. We're not lucky by any stretch of the imagination, but because where I live, in Lock Towers, the luxurious Lock Towers, it's very well insulated. I mean, yesterday it was 27 degrees in it. It's 26 degrees inside Lock Towers at the moment, right? And in the winter, it very rarely gets below 18 degrees. So it doesn't get cold, you know. It doesn't get cold in here. And again, if you go out, take the dog for a walk and come back again, it feels quite warm in here, you know. So we only ever tend to have the gas on, the gas central heating on for the kids, you know, in the mornings, and, you know, when they come home from school, just for a little bit, just to take the chill off. But it's just, you know, kids wanting to, you know, use their computers and things like that. it's using the washing machine. It's the washing machine and the fridge that uses the most power in the house. Boiling a kettle. Boiling a kettle uses more energy than I think having your TV on for all day. And it's these kind of things that you've got to look into. And you know, I've been squirreling money away since last year. I've been using the energy account to save some money, put money in it, but it ain't going to be enough. But I'm hoping that, you know, I think we might be entitled to, because Herb's disabled, we might get a little bit of cash. I think it might be 150 quid coming or whatnot. Again, I don't look into that. I get it when it comes, you know. I find it all a bit of a dark arcane art, the benefit system, so I tend to just wait for the checks to turn up. But I'll figure something out, you know. It's not too bad for us, because there's always something to sell, you know. I've acquired things to sell over the years, so I've always got a plan. Even though I say I haven't got a plan, there's always a plan. But you know, it's just going to affect everything, and I don't think anyone's really considered this. And it's like I say, it's the perfect storm. It's the perfect storm of a capitalist idea being totally exploited and broken. And that's it. And that's what we're looking at. And it's the same, like I say, with the water companies, because around here we have terrible water bursts. The pipes burst all the time. Thames Water are off digging. There was one burst when I used to walk kids to school, and it kept bursting for 8 years. 8 years, the same place, and they come back and dig it up and rinse and repeat over and over again. And this is what you see, you know. And it's usually 4-man crew. One guy's digging the hole, 3 of them are scratching their balls, you know. And that's how it works around here. And they always do it during the, you know, rush hour, so there's lots of traffic. Never do it overnight, you know, when there's no one around. You know, so I feel that the infrastructure is slowly falling apart, you know. But there's plenty of money out there if you know where to look, if you know what I mean. Payne says it's true. If we ended Sunday Trader again, did half-day Wednesdays, we could save billions of carbon. People want everything anytime these days. We can do that just by Amazon with their electric vehicles, you see. I don't have any urge to go anywhere. I mean, we went out the other day with the kids. Went to a shopping place, you know, shopping centre. Went to HMV. They had a copy. I wasn't going to buy anything because everything's ridiculously expensive. But they had a David Bowie picture disc for 40 quid. Got home, Amazon had it on sale for 23 quid with delivery. You see what I'm saying? So there's no point in doing anything there. But yeah, we could save money. Vince says, I found perhaps the most underlooked prog album called To the Highest Bidder by Super Sister. No, I ain't checking that out. Life's too short, Vince. Robert says, only 25 Celsius in Payne Mansion. Exactly. Exactly. Dog cam. Yeah, dog is awake. Dog is awake, but it does use extra power. Please send money, because this costs extra money to have dog cam. There she is. The dog cam is available. So, that's not bad, is it? Where's the old Zoom thing gone? Can we zoom? Can we zoom? Let's try and see if I can get this to zoom. I think I can. Yes, we can zoom. Dun, dun. But I wish it'd stop turning on the autofocus, because it makes it flicker. That's better. There we go. Got plenty of dog cam there for you now. There we go. Zoomed in. Anyway, I think I've done enough damage for today. This is I guess you'd call this the Martin Lewis special. Anyway, we're all doomed, doomed. I tell them, doomed. So yeah, thank you for watching. That's been a miserable coffee time where I've moaned about everybody, and yeah, we'll do this all again. Maybe I'll do another one where it's news stories. Maybe I should do a second one this afternoon where it's not this. But I'm just fed up with all of this, and I'm fed up with the same people saying the same thing over and over again, and it's not going to change. And the government, we have a paralysed government because everybody hated Boris Johnson. Instead of letting the bastard do his term, you know, all the arseholes, you know, created. It's people that wanted Johnson out now moaning that the Tory government are paralysed. It's like, it's what you wanted. What, you thought they was going to call an election? And what would that have done? That would have paralysed everything too. And then by the time we got another government, whether it be Tory or Labour, we'd have been in winter, wouldn't we? You know, and it would have been too late to do anything. Everyone's stupid, except me. Wolfan says, I see the Clips channel has stopped uploading. That's nice. Well, that's probably because he's got 4 defamation blockages over him, and I've asked him for his name and address so I can serve a cease and desist letter on him. So yeah, maybe. Look, he wanted a fight. I fight. You don't look. Don't pick a fight with me, because when I come out brawling, all right. And I will find out where you live, and I will serve papers on you, and I will see you in court because you overstepped the mark. I warned you. I said do your worst, and I warned you, and that's it. Yeah. So So come out and play. Can I tell you about a couple of ambient albums I love? No, because this is coffee time. Why would I do that? This is coffee time. Why are people so dumb? Why are you so dumb, James? Is this ambient suggestion time? No. Anyway, don't be stupid and fight the system. You can't. You can't unless you want to lose everything and end up on the streets. So that's how they got you. That's how they got you. That's how they got you. There's no escape from it. Even if we all marched on Parliament, there's no escape. Anyway, thanks for watching. We'll do this all again soon. Drink it up.